Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. It's been a problem for thousands and thousands of years that money has been losing value and inflation. So, the creation of Bitcoin is such an incredibly important piece of technology. It solves a problem that has been around for a few thousand years. If everyone uses a distributed ledger with a set amount of money, there will be no money growth at all. That's a big deal. I don't think people fully understand it, because if they did, everyone and their brother would rush out and buy Bitcoin. It's been a long time since governments have tried to fix the problem of money inflation. Gold prices rose slowly at a rate of 1.7% per year, so even the gold standard couldn't keep up. This led to inflation. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has changed the way money works and cleared up this old issue. People did not trust Bitcoin at first, just like they did not trust the internet at first. But as more people used it and learned about it, it became famous. Also, Bitcoin is becoming more famous even though some people didn't believe in it at first. It's like how cell phones used to be hard to get and expensive, but now they're everywhere. Institutional investors in Wall Street are becoming interested in Bitcoin as it grows. They see its promise, but there are still people who don't like it. Few people, like Abby Johnson of Fidelity, are against it because they know it can make money and improve the world at the same time. A podcaster named Sean Clark recently talked to Lawrence Leopard, also known as Larry. Larry talked about his worries about the coming financial disaster and the risky debt loop the US dollar is in. He said Bitcoin was changing the world because it was good money and fixed the banking system that was broken. With all the pressure on the Federal Reserve, Larry also talks about what they might do next in the interview. He also talks about how Bitcoin can protect our financial future. Stay tuned, because we're going to show you clips from their latest interview. They talked about how money will work in the future and how Bitcoin might set us free. Click like on this video, subscribe, and post notifications to get more movies like this. Okay, but you're right. It's been going on longer than it should have. It might keep going for another 5 or 10 years. Some people think longer than I do. In 5 or 10 years, I think this will all come to a head. But I also thought it would be over in 2008, and they were able to get the can there. It's now at the level of a national currency. This is the third bubble in 3 years. The first two were .com and housing, and the third is national currency. Because of how the government's finances are set up, we continue to spend more than we collect in taxes. This means that the debt is growing, and as interest rates rise, so do the costs of borrowing money. As James Lavish has so eloquently explained in all of his writings, we're stuck in a debt-death doom loop where higher interest rates require bigger deficits, which means you have to sell more debt. If you sell more debt for the same amount of demand, interest rates will go up, and wish rust will happen again, right? There is only one way out a negative feedback loop, and I believe the kicking of the can is going to get really, really tough. To give you an idea, we had a lot of money made in the COVID example during this time. That's been slowed down a bit, and things have become a little tighter since the Fed's balance sheet was cut from 9 trillion to 7 trillion. But at some point, something else will break, and the system will not have enough money to work. They'll have to make the same choice they always do, which is either print money to keep the system going, even though you know that will lead to inflation, or don't print money and let everything fall apart, even though you know that will look a lot like 1929. We know what they will pick because we've seen them pick it for 100 years. In Silicon Valley Bank, they picked it. In 2008, they picked it. They picked it. They picked it with COVID. In 1998, they picked it with LTCM. I mean, I've seen all of these at work. It's always the same thing they pick. They'll use the same reason they used in 2008. In his letter to Nancy Pelosi, Henry Paul got down on his knees and said, look, if you don't give us this $700 billion for TARP, the ATMs won't work tomorrow. Okay, and they literally have a gun to your head and say that if you don't print, the end of the banking system. Also, guess what? That's what the leaders made it so. They are going to print. We are sure that they will print. Also, I believe in the next print. The Fed now has $20 trillion in cash on hand. And what's important here, Sean, is that more and more people are coming to see each event. A lot of people saw it coming at 71 when there was a big run in gold. A lot of people who believed in hard money got it, but they were able to stop it by raising interest rates very high. They were able to do this because national debt was a small part of total GDP. But since then, they've let things go the other way, and it keeps getting bigger. So let's talk about time. I think there will be fireworks in the next 5 years, and I don't see how this system can last longer than 10 years. Anyway, I think we're on a sound money standard now that Bitcoin is becoming very popular. This will happen sometime between now and 2034, which is a long time. But it won't be another 20, 30, or 40 years. In other words, the problem is getting worse with each turn. Do you get what I mean? That's how I kind of mark it down. Actually, that would fit with a fourth idea about how things turn. I mean, this is the fourth turning, which is a change in the rules of society. There's a book with the same name that talks about it. The idea is known by most people. The last one was World War II. The American Revolution came before that, and the Civil War came after that. They're at least in the United States. And I think the fourth turning will be about what money is, which is a great name for a series by Robert Breedlove. And, we've had the problem of money inflation for 2,000 years. The Romans had it, Since then, every country and government has had the problem, even some that were on the gold standard. This is because the amount of gold in circulation grows by 1.7% per year. Add to that. In other words, the world's gold supply doubles every 40 years. It has been a problem for thousands and thousands of years that money has been losing value in inflation. So the creation of Bitcoin is such an incredibly important piece of technology. It solves a problem that has been around for a few thousand years. If everyone relies on a distributed ledger with a fixed amount, there will be no monetary inflation at all. That's a big deal. On the other hand, I don't think many people fully understand it. If they did, I think everyone and their brother would be buying Bitcoin. You should know that even though some of us are buying Bitcoin, it's still only a small part of all the money we spend. Things went wrong with the economy for a long time. What caused the trouble were the Federal Reserve and the end of the gold standard in 1971. More debt has been added than the economy has grown since then, making things even worse. Because of this, longer-term debt has to be sold to pay for bigger deficits, which makes interest rates go up even more.